Hey, Isaac.
What?
Did you hear the one about the rope?
No.
Skip it.
Skip it. I have heard that joke before.
Okay.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Engaged Family Gaming Podcast. This is episode 204 and I am your host Steven Dutzman. This week I am joined by Amanda Farrow, the Princess of Power. How are you, Amanda?
I'm better now.
Yes, we're going to talk all about your adventures in Philadelphia because this week is board game week, and it's rather fortuitous that it's board game week because last weekend you ventured to the city of brotherly love and bad sports fans, and you went to PAX Unplugged.
I sure did.
And so my understanding is that you played at least one board game.
Yes, at least one.
At least one. Listen, I'm setting it low, setting the bar low, because I know that you definitely played board games for 2 days, and then you had to go home because you tried to be a ninja and it didn't work.
I think it's way less glamorous than that, but yeah.
I like to think in my head that you were being a ninja.
That's your headcanon?
And my headcanon is that you were being the Princess of Power and like trying to like hold up a collapsing, burning building.
You think so? I love that you're my constant hype machine.
And so there was a burning building and you ran into it like Wonder Woman and like
as I sometimes do.
And just we're holding it up, and it just tweaked your ankle just a little bit because it just moved in a way you weren't expecting it. And
really
who could really expect it? Those burning buildings, very unpredictable. And so your fam had to bring you home. But you still had 2 whole days at PAX Unplugged, which is a lot of time, considering that place is jam-packed with board games, being that it is a board game convention.
It's true.
So we're going to talk all about the game, all about your experience there and your thoughts on it, etc. But before we do that, we're going to go around the horn because both of us, we played some board games.
We did play some games.
So why don't you start?
Sure. The first game I want to talk about today is Noctiluca, which I think I might have already talked about for our Gen Con episode, but I want to talk about it again because I finally bought it.
Sure.
Because it's out now, and as a refresher, in case I did already talk about this, this is the game with like the jellyfish. So you have the premise is you have this board, and you are joined by 3 other divers at least.
Sure.
And I think it is just 3 others. So you can play with up to 4 people, but you can also play solo, which is cool.
Okay.
And you're diving down to go and collect these little jellyfish. Okay. And they're denoted by colorful dice that are on this game board. So the aim of the game is to have the most points at the end of the game. It's not hyper competitive, but it is competitive.
Sure.
You're competing for the same kinds of dice, and the like how the mechanic works is you look for ways to complete jars. So you need to have specific kinds of colors. It has nothing to do with the pips, so the numbers on the dice that are on there. All that does is when you say, all right, look, I landed on this shore with my little meeple guy, and I'm gonna look straight down and I'm gonna pick up every die that's a 2.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what color it is because you pick up all the 2s in that straight line, depending on which shore you end up landing on.
Okay. And
from the dice, you go ahead and you start completing these jars, and that gets you points. And if you collect enough dice that are your favorite color, which you're assigned at the beginning of the game, you rack up more points like that too. So I mean, It's not a complicated game. It's pretty easy. Scoring's a little challenging, because the rules are a little bit obtuse.
So it's a little point salad. You
Yeah.
know, like you're just kind of getting points from all over the place, and you just got to kind of keep track of it.
Yeah, and it's okay. I mean, it's once you got the hang of it, it goes pretty fast. But it's some analysis paralysis when you're like, there's so much to do and there's so much to look at. So yeah, that was Noctiluca. I finally bought it. I was really excited.
At the show?
I bought it at the show. Because I played it when they had it during Gen Con, but it wasn't on sale yet.
Sure.
So I was really psyched that I'm like, I want this game so bad. So I finally got it. And then I played it with my family, and it was really cool.
Good. Okay. So, let's take a look. Is it available at retail, or was that
It's available at retail.
Okay, let's take a look. For those that are interested, Noctiluca, wow, that box is very pretty.
Right?
That is an Amanda-ass game. If nothing else, just the box.
It's true.
So,
Extremely
it
cute.
is available on the Amazons, if you so choose, for under $30, like $26.
It's well worth it.
So it's probably, MSRP $29.99 probably at your friendly local game store if it is available there, but otherwise, go grab it on the Amazon. So I'll talk about a game, and then so I played finally. This has been on our shelves. I actually bought this during a Target sale a while ago.
Show me the box. I want to see it.
It is Century Spice Road.
Interesting.
So,
Neato.
Century Spice Road is by Emerson Matsuuchi.
Okay.
And it is by from Plan B Games.
Oh, all right.
And who make
Solid.
good things.
Yeah, they make solid games.
And this is a game about essentially the theme is you are spice traders. So you're gathering saffron and cinnamon, etc., and you are exchanging it. The idea is you're earning points. And so this is a game where you are there's a it is challenging to describe but it takes one turn to understand how to play. Like,
okay,
essentially you have what do they call them? I'm just going to take out the instructions, guys, because I have the box right here. Oh, you know what? Fun fact: we figured this out without the instructions because I lost them. Okay, so you have cards that are either you have cards that you're going to pick up. You start with a hand of 2, where you can either gather 2 saffron.
Okay.
Or, you can gather 2 of a resource. You may upgrade a resource that you already have. And so as you're gathering these cubes, you're putting them on your wagon. You can only have 10 resources at a time. And so the idea is you are, over time, picking up new kind of either exchange cards where you can take 4 yellow cards and turn them into 3 green, 4 yellow cubes and turn them into 3 green cubes, etc. So you're just trying to kind of balance what you have. So you're kind of building like an engine where you're bringing in resources and converting them into things.
I love engine games.
And then when you have used all your cards, you can rest and take no actions for a turn and pick everything up. So you're kind of doing stuff. And the idea is you are trying to create different combinations of spices on your caravan that you can trade in for scoring cards. There might be one that says you need 3 brown and 2 yellow and 2 red. And if you get that, it's worth 17 points. Or whatever. And so you would take a turn and you would kind of buy that. And so you are competing with your opponents to generate these combinations of resources, to build an efficient engine to kind of gather resources and kind of gather enough to do something. I played, one game I played, the first one we played, my mother was playing with us, and she neglected to pick up any cards that allowed her to gather.
Okay.
So she could only gather like 2 cubes whenever she rested, and she had no way to like trade those 2 for anything more. And so she really struggled. And so you're kind of building this engine and trying to be efficient and buying these scorecards.
Okay.
The art is gorgeous.
It looks pretty. Like the box art's really nice.
Yeah, the box is really nice. It's part of a series. There are 3
Really?
right now. Yes, there are 3 games in the series right now. Where are they? Oh, it's on the inside of the box. So in 2017, they released Century Spice Road. And then in 2018, they released Century Eastern Wonders. And then in 2019, they released Century A New World, which takes place in North America.
Okay.
And so all of them are... they have the same kind of like up high goals, right? You're getting resources and you're trading them and doing stuff. This game says... What does it say? It says that it is for ages 8 and up, 2 to 5 players, and it plays in about a half hour. I think that is a very reasonable assessment. This game is not super complicated.
That's great.
A game-savvy kid, there's no reading. It's all all symbols.
All iconography.
So, and yeah, exactly. All iconography. That's the word that I was looking for. So, a game-savvy kid that was even younger than that could absolutely grok this and get it. The cards are... I am slowly developing a love for games that use tarot card-sized cards as opposed to regular cards. I don't know why. There's just something about them. For me, I'm clumsy, and they're easier for me to shuffle. So when it's my turn to shake, I get it done efficiently without cards going everywhere. Like a bad magic trick. So yeah, that's Century Spice Road. This game is readily available at Target.
It's ranked fairly well on Board Game Geek as well. I'm taking a look right now, and it looks like Century Spice Road and Century so Century Spice Road is rated at like 234. That ain't bad. Anything under 1,000 is a good game.
That means it's good. Yeah. And there's also, for those folks that are like, historical thing, I prefer some fantasy. They actually have a game that is Century Golem Edition. Which is
also rated quite well.
It is almost literally the same game as Century Spice Road. The difference is instead of spices, you're getting crystals and you're trying to build golems.
That's so cool.
It is not readily available on Amazon.
No.
However, you will find it at friendly local game stores. You might be able to get it used, that type of thing. But
do math trades.
$30 or trades, etc. $30 for really any of these Century games. I will be by the end of next year. I will own all of them. And that was determined in one game. I was like, nope, we got to have all of these. I like them. So that's Century Spice Road. So I guess this is an old game, quote unquote, because it came out in 2017. But it is definitely worth a look. It felt very. Here's what it felt like. It felt very Splendor to me.
Ooh.
Which is high praise because people who know this know that Splendor is arguably one of my favorite games of all time. It's not quite Letter Tycoon, but it's pretty good. And Letter Tycoon is my favorite board game of all time. Have you played Letter Tycoon
yet? I didn't know that. No, I haven't.
I'll bring it when I come visit. All right, so that is Century Spice Road. I love it.
It looks really interesting. I think I might have to pick it up.
I mean, I'll bring it and you can try it.
Better. I love it. We're gonna have like a day where we play board games and we talk strategy, and it's gonna be rad.
Yep, probably. I hope so, at least. Either that or I'll just cry for a day. It will be okay. It's a joke. I don't know. I cry about everything.
Okay, I do too.
Yeah, so exactly. That's why we are best friends. Okay, so that was my thing. So why don't you go next? What?
Okay. So we don't have to talk about all the games that I played, but I will talk about one of the games that actually really surprised me that I ended up playing with Mike. So we were at a Kickstarter party at a board game cafe during PAX Unplugged, and it was it wasn't like packed or anything for a while. And we got to the end of the night and we'd been playing with a few friends of ours. We ended up playing this RPG called Expedition.
Okay.
And Expedition is like an RPG in a box where you just pull cards and you move through it like that.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. And like you also it's app enabled, so you're able to go through content that has already been written by Fabricate, which is the developers. There are a bunch of different scenarios that you can play through, and they really walk you through building your first character, you know, building out your party, and then moving through some of the mechanics that you need in order to get through combat. So we only ended up playing like a 20-minute tutorial of it, but I really enjoyed it. It was illuminating. It was the kind of game where we were able to tell a story, like a meaningful story, in a very short amount of time.
Sure.
And these kinds of app-enabled RPGs like Expedition, and we also had a great conversation with Weave. Mike and I had a great conversation with Weave by Monocle Society. It came out a couple years ago.
We've talked about it on the show before.
We have, yeah.
And I was hoping, and let's put a pin in Weave, because I want to talk about Weave, because they have some interesting stuff going on, and I know you have.
Cool stuff.
I know that it made you feel a certain kind of way. So, so carrying on.
So yeah, so that's Expedition. Expedition was really, I was interested in it, and it's a relatively inexpensive investment. It's like $30, I think.
It is available currently, believe it or not, on the Amazons. As an Amazon's choice, for $29.99 for the base set, and then there are
$15 for the horror edition,
and then the future.
Yeah, we don't have. I think
that comes after horror. You need the base game. Apparently, you need the base game and the horror to play for the future. And then apparently there's a deluxe edition.
Yeah, it steadily ramps up in terms of the difficulty of the narrative. It has a little bit of flexibility. It's not a ton, but it's also really satisfying because it's a GM-less RPG, so that everybody can just get into playing the game together instead of having someone be like, okay, I guess I will just sit around and plan everything on my own.
Sure. I mean, GM-less role-playing games are fun, especially if you're in a group of people that are experienced with tabletop role-playing games and are comfortable with each other, or at the very least comfortable with improv, because then it just turns into, it really does emphasize the whole idea that tabletop role-playing games are collaborative storytelling. And so this just really minimizes that. And if you have that group where just nobody wants to be the DM, this gives you the ability for no one to have to be the DM.
It's true.
Which is a problem that a lot of groups have.
Yep.
And this is the solution, or one of those solutions. So yeah, it's available on the Amazons. $30, a bunch of cards. If you want to get fancy, there's a deluxe edition that comes in a very nice box and has some cool like coins and stuff. So if you want to get bougie with it, that's $50.
Perfect.
But it also has room. It's kind of like the bigger, blacker box or whatever for Cards Against Humanity, which is something we don't talk about, but they put out what's the game? Smash Up, where they just released like a box with room for all the expansions. That's kind of what the deluxe edition is. It's got the base game and plenty of room for all the expansions that exist, and very likely room for all the further expansions. So that is very cool. I'm glad that you got a chance to play that. I have heard about that.
It was great.
Have never known another human.
Again.
All right. I've never known another human being who had played it. So now I am quite excited because I know too.
Hooray!
Okay, so I do think we'll actually have time to talk about all the games that you have. So why don't you talk about the next one?
Oh, dang.
You do two in a row, and then I'll do one, and then you do the last one.
So the other one that I want to talk about is Letter Jam. So again, I think I might have talked about Letter Jam during the whole Gen Con thing, but I got it finally. This game was completely out of stock at Gen Con. It came out at Gen Con, I think, and I just couldn't get it. I needed to get my hands on it. It just wasn't there. I was really upset.
Yeah.
I finally got it. It was the first stop it was one of the first stops that we made when we got to Philadelphia. Is I'm like, listen, I'm getting letter jam.
You're like, forget stopping at the Airbnb, guys.
Everything.
Forget breakfast. I'm gonna put on shoes and my robe, and we're going to get letter jam.
We're going to get letter jam. We're going to Czech games, and I'm getting letter jam finally.
Sure.
Okay, so letter jam is another word game, but this game is completely cooperative, so it's not competitive at all. Everybody is sitting down trying to help everybody else guess their own word. So you guess it one letter at a time. You have so what you do first is you draw a bunch of letters and you try to spell a word. It's recommended that you start with a 5-letter word because it's a little bit easier. And so once you've got your word, you pass it to the right. And so that person puts those, like after you have to shuffle it so that it's not obvious what the word is. So you shuffle it, you put the cards in front of your player area. You have a stand, and that stand is where you put the letter that you need to guess. So everyone else can see your letter, but you can't see it. So you have to guess it based on the different kinds of clues that you've been given around the table. So once you all have your letters in front of you and you're just like, okay, so I'm looking around, I'm seeing a bunch of letters here. I can spell a word that has 5 letters that uses all the players. So, like for us, there were 4 players. So I can use 3 players and there were 2 dummy cards on either side. And I can use the wild card in the middle. It was great. And the best thing is that it's all about working together and figuring out what the best ways are for you to guess your own words. So for me, one of the clues I ended up giving was I spelled fruit. So I it comes with poker chips. So you put poker chips down in order. So like this is the first letter, so it's marked with a 1. This is the second letter. This is the third letter. This is the fourth letter. So they're seeing it spelled out. And more often than not, you will have a player like every single turn, you'll have at least one player looking at the word and being like, oh, this is just a big question mark. But based on these clues, I can kind of figure out what the letter is based on what I think the word is. And I mean, you can still screw it up, right? I mean, there are still a number of different words out there that use 4 letters and, there's still a fair amount of guessing. But you get to the end of the game after you've given out all your clues and there's a flower in the center that, you're plucking petals off of to denote how many turns you have left. And so you get to the end of the game and you start revealing and you're just like, okay, well, I think that this word is chirp. I thought it was chair. Was it chair? Might have been something else. Anyway, so I think this word is this. I'm going to start spelling it out. And it's not. We had a number of flubs when we were playing Letter Jam where Mike, for example, was like, oh, this is a tiffer. Wait, what's a tiffer? What's tiffers? I don't understand tiffers. And I can't remember what the word was exactly, but it was really hilarious. So we house ruled it and we're like, listen, what was the actual word? What was the actual word? Oh, it was first. That's what it was. Tiffers was first. Couldn't remember it. We laughed so friggin' hard though. It was hilarious. And I made him define it. I'm just like, no, if we screw it up, you have to use the word in a sentence. So we had a lot of fun with that.
I am nervous about this game because I'm getting Hanabi vibes.
No.
And
not Hanabi.
Because you know
Hanabi.
How I feel about Hanabi.
No, I have those same feelings. I don't like Hanabi. No, okay. This game is definitely not like Hanabi. Okay. It is hysterical.
Okay. I mean, all the people that I have played Hanabi with thought it was hysterical when I got raging angry trying to play it. But.
No, you come to our house.
I will
play Letter Jam. And you will have a really good time because we will trash talk each other and it will be hysterical.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so that's Letter Jam. For those interested, by the time you are listening to this, it will likely be sold out on the Amazon. However, this is Czech games. they are not known for underproducing their board games. So they'll do another print run. It'll be fine. Throw it in your Amazon cart. You'll find it. It's about $35 right now. But you might be able to get it at your friendly local game store because Czech Games is also very good about that.
True.
Okay, so let me talk about. All right, I'm going to talk about something that is not great.
Okay, walk me through it.
So this is a game that was sent to me a couple weeks ago. I had somebody who was representing a new imprint for, I believe, Asmodee.
Oh.
Let me look it up because I don't want to besmirch the wrong name. Let's see here. I can do this. Yeah. New line of kids games. And I got this thing. Yes. And they are for Asmodee. And so they have a new younger audience focused studio called Kod Kod. Kod.
Okay.
That is intended for little ones.
Like little ones? Like younger than our
this
kiddos?
game is for ages 8 and up. So that's why I actually brought this, because this game is targeted for 8 and up, and so is Century Spice Road. And the game that they sent me several of them. 4 games. This is the one that we opened first because it looked like an abstract style strategy game, and those are my middle son's jam.
Oh yeah.
And we looked at the back, and I was like, no, this is their kind of thing. And the game is called Good and Bad Ghosts.
Okay.
So, it's a 2-player game,
Mm-hmm.
and what it feels like is a little bit of a cross between Stratego and Chinese checkers. In that, you have 8 ghosts, 4 of them good and 4 of them bad.
Okay.
And you are the only one who knows which of your ghosts are good and which of your ghosts are bad. And the idea is you put them down on the map kind of however you want. And the goal is to do 1 or 2. You win. You're on like a checkerboard, and you can only move orthogonally. No diagonals. So,
Alrighty.
1 space at a time, forward or back, left or right. And the idea is you win by either tricking your opponent into capturing all 4 of your bad ghosts.
Okay.
Or capturing all of your opponent's good ghosts, or making one of your guys escape. One of your good ghosts escape on the other side of the board.
Okay.
And so we know this was for 8+, but we figured we let the 2 boys at it, and so they played half a dozen games.
Okay, so they gave it a really fair shake.
And then they came to me and they were like, "Dad, this game's broken."
Oh no.
And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And so the issue is whoever went first automatically won, because all you had to do was just walk in a straight line and escape, because there was nothing that your opponent could do. Because if you capture your opponent's bad ghost, that's it, you captured it. So if they just maneuvered their guys to the appropriate position, it's just whoever went first won. So I think that this I don't know how that problem got past adult playtesters, because that's
yikes.
Yeah, and I was like, no, this has to be wrong. Let me read the instructions. Maybe you guys are playing something different. No, it is not. So the only way to really play it, at which point I think we theory crafted how to make it better, is that you could just remove the rule for escape and then make it into a bluffing game where you're just really messing with your opponents. But even then,
that's not super kid friendly though. Bluffing games are really challenging for kids.
Agreed.
And it teaches them how to be deceptive, which, while entertaining, isn't sending the right message.
Yeah, it's not Yes, I do not disagree with you. So we struggled with it. Now, this is something that, I mean, Asmodee is doing this with, this is very clearly, just looking at the packaging, I mean, I'll show you in the camera, this is the kind of game you're going to see on a shelf at Target.
Yeah.
And it's hard, you know me, I don't like to be negative,
No.
but this is one that I really struggled with. This is a game that, you know, we're going to write our review and we'll put our, you know, pictures up on Instagram and everything. And then ultimately this game is going to get dismantled for parts. So that we can use, because I mean, the ghost figures are kind of neat. Like the ghost pieces are, you know, like I can, if you look at them, they're just like little ghost dudes.
Little ghost dudes are cool.
So I'll probably use those for Dungeons and Dragons. So that is Good and Bad Ghosts, a game of wit, strategy, and bluff. Which that troubles me in and of itself because, like, bluff just seems awkward there, like, and bluffing, but whatever. So yeah, that's Good and Bad Ghosts from Kod Kod. Now, I will say the other 3 games they sent us, I actually feel a little bit better about. Okay. 2 of them are targeted at a younger audience, and they're, you know, one of them is about it's kind of guessing what isn't part of the pattern and like spotting the difference. And then there's like a cooperative one that's kind of like figuring out Clue all at once, you know, all together. That sounds kind of neat. So I think this is just one of those. I'm sorry, what?
It's like that Fox game that Game Right published.
Yeah, it's kind of like outfoxed from Game Right. So I think this might have just been the one, like maybe they just needed to have 4 in the line, and this is just one they had to have. I don't know. Like, it could have been, Target was like, fine, we'll let you have some space, but you got to put out 4 games, and they just didn't have another 4th one. I'm terrified of what the 5th idea was, because if that, you know, it's a great idea in concept. It's just frustrating that it was not well play tested, because it took my boys 6 games-ish to figure it out. Probably less, because I think they had 3, but they played a lot. But they knew it was broken after like 2 or 3 playthroughs. So, yeah. So that is Good and Bad Ghosts by Kod Kod. And I think we'll look and see if it's on Amazon in case anybody really needs some ghost figures. Is it on the Amazon yet? It is not. Which makes sense because it's relatively new to market, but soon. So if you really need some ghost figs for your Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Okay. I don't think we will because we got scanny minis.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You guys are fine. You guys are fine. And as I sent you some pictures that showed that I am also fine, because I found my Myth Kickstarter that was in my basement for a while, and I found many, 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 many figures. Okay, so we've talked about a bunch. Now, this will be a summer rerun from Gen Con, but I definitely want to hear your opinion now that you have played it. Tell me your thoughts on Unmatched.
Okay, so now that I have actually played Unmatched, we ended up playing it while, so this happened a little while ago. This has happened, around Thanksgiving? I think we played this around Thanksgiving when our mutual friend came down from Rochester.
Okay.
So he came over and he's like, "Hey, I have all of this Unmatched stuff, and I have some stuff I'm also playtesting for them. So can we sit down? Can we play?" And I'm like, I have been psyched about Unmatched since Gen Con. So we sat down, and we actually ended up getting our teenage daughter and her best friend playing in a separate match. They were just playing against each other, and we ended up the 4 of us ended up playing together. So it was me, James, Mike, and our friend Kelsey, and we ended up playing like a free-for-all match between the 4 of us. That game is nuts. It is high tension. It is extremely competitive, even when you're playing on a team. So I was playing on James's team. And was I playing on James's team? Yes, I was playing on James's team. and Mike and Kelsey were playing together. So we were trying to like take each other out. He was playing, if you think he was playing like Sasquatch. I was
Sasquatch
playing,
is great.
Yeah, I was playing a character that hasn't come out yet, so I don't think I can talk about it. But it was really hard. It was hard to figure out those mechanics. And Mike was playing, what was Mike playing as? Mike might have been playing as somebody that hadn't come out yet either. But anyway, it doesn't really matter what we were playing. The point is that we ended up diving in full force, and that game is ridiculously cool. Like, the mechanics are really interesting. I love the strategy elements that are involved with it. Like, you have to be so smart about the way that you are interacting with both your cards, your partner's cards, how that synergy works, whether or not you're going to be able to end your turn anywhere near an ally, or in my case, I had some minions, and I wasn't allowed to end my turn near my minions ever. Otherwise, bad things would happen to my minions.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that game has like infinite replayability too, because they're going to be releasing. They've already released a ton of characters, and they have a ton of characters that are currently in playtesting. So it's fascinating. The whole thing is just fascinating. So I really, really enjoyed it, and we ended up picking up the base set. And I think that we're going to start buying the expansions if we already haven't. But we got the Bruce Lee one in. So we're looking forward to that one, too. That one looks awesome.
Yeah, Bruce Lee doesn't have a companion. It's just him. Whereas everybody else has multiple, like, King Arthur and Merlin, or, Robin Hood and his merry men.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee is a one-man army, which is hilarious.
That's fair.
Hilarious and appropriate.
Extremely appropriate.
Yeah, I played Unmatched in its pre-Gen Con state. So before it was released. And I'm very excited to see, how they continue to support it. This is one of those games that's just going to keep on showing up. And I just can't wait to see what comes next.
Because there is some, I can't wait to like share with you the bonkers stuff that I played.
Yeah. I know some of the things that they have, that they were hoping for. Unmatched, essentially, folks, it's a dudes on a map kind of game.
It is,
However, the dudes on a map piece is stripped down as much as possible, and it really uses card-based mechanics. And the idea is it is a weird battleground of heroes, and as many of them as possible coming from public domain, which is actually really cool. And they are certainly exploring licenses from a company called Mondo, who actually has a lot of really cool reach as far as, what kind of characters they can get in there. But I know they're using, Robin Hood and Sasquatch and Alice from Alice in Wonderland and Sinbad, and it's only going to get crazier, You heard Bruce Lee. So the idea of having Bruce Lee fight Robin Hood and the Sinbad is pretty cool. It is we don't have it yet. But we will at some point. So it is it's super cool, very simple, and I love the art style. The art style is great. All the characters have like a very unique color scheme, so you really can kind of tell what they're up to. Yeah, it's great. It is great. So that's Unmatched.
It's an excellent game. I'm so happy that we got it, and I'm so happy that we ended up being able to sit down and hang out with our friend Kelsey, and he brought over all of this incredible stuff.
And let's see. Is it available? So the game is called Unmatched Battle of Legends. Is the base game.
Yes.
And let's see here. Let's see what we got. So, be careful what you search for with Unmatched, I guess, on Amazon. Let's look up Unmatched Battle of Legends. Specifically. Yikes. And so, the Volume 1 is King Arthur, Alice, Sinbad, and Medusa are the 4 characters in the base game.
Yes.
They're calling it Volume 1, so they're just kind of getting right out the gate.
Yeah.
And that's $40. Well worth it for that. They have an expansion that is Robin Hood versus Bigfoot. They have Bruce Lee, and then they have a Jurassic Park expansion, which is one of the guys from Jurassic Park and raptors. And they've announced several others that are coming. There's one that's horror villains. So, like, think The Invisible Man, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, stuff like that. And then, obviously, you've seen some things. So,
I've seen some stuff.
So, and just look it up on Amazon, look it up on Board Game Geek. You'll see what we mean. This is a really cool game. Medusa, by the way, real messed up. I do not like playing against Medusa. She can one-shot kill you, as she does. So that we talked about a lot of board games.
We really did.
So
a ton of board games.
So why don't we take a break because I need to rest. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about. We'll have two topics because we're going to talk a little bit about Weave because I know that game makes you feel a certain kind of way.
It really does.
And we're going to talk about just PAX Unplugged in general because I think it is slowly turning into one of the most important shows in all board games, which is saying a lot. So, folks, we will be back in a minute.
Hey everybody, this is Steve, I'm the host. If you like listening to this podcast, you probably like some of our other content too. You can find that all over social media, so make sure to head over to facebook.com/engagedfamilygaming. Perhaps you might like to see some stuff on Twitter by going to twitter.com/EFGAMING, or maybe you just want to head on over to Instagram and look for Engaged Family Gaming there. See you later, guys. Bye now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 204 of the Engaged Family Gaming Podcast. I'm still Steven, and I'm still here with the Princess of Power, Amanda Farrow. And so we've got a couple of topics to round out this week's board game episode. We'll talk about PAX Unplugged last, because I think that might just be you and me kind of, just kind of thinking about it, as we are wont to do. But you had some good discussions with the Monocle Society, the folks behind Weave, while you were at PAX Unplugged, and you tweeted about it and said some what I feel is probably some profound things, and said that you had profound thoughts. So, profound at me. Tell me, what is up with Weave?
When I first saw Weave in 2017, it was the first PAX Unplugged, I think, and I was kind of blown away by it because app-enabled RPGs in general were really challenging and they weren't interesting. Mm-hmm. And what I felt like that Weave does well is it allows you to create a story within a container. So you are drawing. So how Weave works, and I mean we've talked about Weave before, but just as a refresher, how Weave works is you download the app. You get the base game, which come with a number of tarot cards, and they're very abstract. It kind of looks like you're going to sit down and play Dixit, but it isn't. And you scan the cards into the app and say, okay, so this card represents my setting. This card represents, the boss. And this card represents the theme. So what it is that overall what is going on in this particular story. You can play them as one-offs. You can play them as longer campaigns. You can remix some of these campaigns so that, even if you wanted to play one of the preset campaigns, you can still remix it and do it your way. Mm-hmm. That's what I really like about Weave. I like that Weave removes a lot of the barriers to entry for RPGs and makes it really easy to just make a character. You can make a character in 3 minutes. That's all it takes. And all it is just drawing cards from the deck, scanning them into the app, and then saving that particular character to your Weave account. And you can do that with everybody at the table. Only one person has to own Weave. You don't all have to have it. And the great thing about that is that it still can be an experience that is really reminiscent of, say, Shadowrun Anarchy. Children can't play Shadowrun Anarchy. It is very not for kids. But you can build campaigns that are very futuristic and cyberpunk that deal with those kinds of topics in that particular setting without getting too heavy and too deep, because as we all know, cyberpunk is an extremely challenging setting to role play in, because there are lots of different things that you have to consider. So Weave is great like that. You can tailor the content, you can remix it, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. But part of the conversation that I really liked is Weave is introducing something brand new. They're introducing a subscription service. And as you know, I'm a big fan of subscription services. I think they're great. We had a big debate about it a few episodes back, I think. I think Mike and I had a big debate about it a few episodes back.
We got to be careful when you say we, because I was blessed to be able to just sit back and learn and experience.
Okay, so Mike and I,
you and Mike, and
had a
folks,
debate.
if you're interested, go back a few episodes. I believe it is episode 201.
Yes.
You guys, we ran a little long.
We went for it, though.
But that's okay, because you guys kind of you shared your thoughts, because subscription services definitely make you guys feel a certain kind of way, and that's fine. So you do like subscription services when done correctly.
Yes, because especially if it's in favor of supporting development and supporting content and supporting the community. And so what I really loved about the way that Weave is approaching their subscription, which they're calling Weave Plus, is, again, only one person at the table needs to have that Weave Plus subscription. So if you want to be working in a world that person with Weave Plus has pulled together, you can do that. You don't have to own the game at all. All you need is a Weave account. That's it. And even though it seems really counterintuitive, and this is something that we talked to the folks at Weave about extensively. So we talked to the executive producer, his name is Tristan, and we talked to the COO, his name is Mike. So we talked to Tristan and Mike a lot about different approaches to RPGs and children.
So you talked to him about different approaches.
Different approaches to RPGs, and how, even though it's kind of counterintuitive to bring a phone to the table because you don't necessarily want people to be distracted, it's not something that you're going to be looking at all the time. You're just going to be pulling it up every once in a while to be like, oh yeah, I need to make this test, so I need to roll this number of die in this many elements and have this many successes in order to make that happen. But a lot of it is done in the app. It's it's a frictionless experience to the best of the ability of the game. So, and it's constantly evolving. So yeah, we had a really great conversation with Tristan and Mike during PAX Unplugged, where they're going to keep us posted about Weave Plus, which is great, and we're going to be bringing Weave to the table at some point during December to really start to dig into it with the little ones.
Good. Well, I look forward to hearing and or reading your experiences and thoughts on Weave, because it's pretty cool. I first encountered Weave at the first PAX Unplugged. And it was actually Linda who bounced into the guy first. And I didn't know what to make of it then. I think what's interesting is, I don't think I was in the right place at that time to really, really give it the coverage that it deserved. So we were because we were in kind of a weird spot. And I also think they were in a different space, and I'm excited to talk about it more in the coming year, because I think Weave is going to kind of, it is slowly building like this really big presence and doing all the right stuff.
Absolutely.
And again, this is a collaborative storytelling experience that is something that is intentionally designed to simplify the role-playing experience and also be more accessible by nature of the fact that it is so broad, right?
Yes.
A lot of things do accessibility by picking one very specific niche and just kind of delving into it. And trying to just make it easier to understand that one thing. Weave does everything.
Yeah, seriously.
And also keeps it somewhat simple. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it.
Me too. I'm really excited to dive in. I mean, this is the kind of game where it's really meant to play with people that just don't role play. Or just don't know how to go dive into it. And being able to be that, this is going to be me digging into my coding background, that extensible. You know, it's just, it's delightful. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Weave Plus subscription is going to roll out. I think it's rolling out in Q1 next year. So, you know, keep your eyes peeled for more information on that. And I think that if all goes well, you know, I should be contributing to Engage Family Gaming in a more concrete sense very soon.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. And definitely excited to hear more about Weave in general. I'm
into it.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, it's pretty neat. Also, it's tarot cards. So we do.
It's tarot cards.
We do like tarot-sized decks of cards.
It's RFID tarot cards.
Well,
more
that's
importantly.
I mean, because it's 2019, almost 2020. Of course, it's
Heck
RFID.
yeah.
Okay, so speaking of when we first met Weave and the Monocle Society, we were both at the first PAX together and didn't know each other at that time.
We did not.
I actually have not been to PAX Unplugged since, which is a crime against nature, but largely just because this is a bad time of year for me to travel. I will not make that mistake again.
It's also earlier next year. It's before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that is true, which is a good thing. Interestingly enough, it conflicts with BGG Con next year, but what are you going to do?
Oh, it does.
Yeah, that doesn't really so much impact me because BGG Con is in Florida. So if I can get the...
Oh, is it in Florida next year?
So.
It was in Texas this year.
I think it's in... I don't know. It's in the same... It's not like in Hartford. Like,
Got it.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to make that kind of... Because that would be an easy choice for me.
Yeah.
Sorry, PAX Unplugged. So, PAX Unplugged is the board... I mean, for the easiest explanation, it is the board game arm of the PAX convention series. And it really gives tabletop and board game companies an opportunity to, like, take center stage. So I think it's safe to say, and you've been to far more PAXs than me, being that you're like an actual professional. PAX is really about the video games and has always been like that's what takes center stage. Tabletop and board games have always been there, but they've kind of existed in the periphery. They're what you do after the show is over.
Yeah. You go to the board game library, you go pick up a few games that you want to play with your friends, you go hang out at a hotel nearby.
Yeah.
Especially at PAX West, like PAX West just has those vibes.
And but PAX Unplugged really kind of gives those companies that may have just avoided it because they didn't want to deal with the investment to be an afterthought to really kind of take center stage. They started it in 2017 and it's in Philadelphia at their convention center, and it's a pretty big deal. What are your so how did you feel when it was announced? Like, what was your initial gut reaction?
When PAX Unplugged was first announced,
Yeah.
I was ecstatic. It's in Philly. It's an hour and a half away from me. I was so excited that I would not have to get on a plane. I wouldn't have to get on a train. I could just get there in a car, and I wouldn't need green eggs and ham. So.
I see what you did there. You
You can tell I have a child that's learning how to read.
Yeah, I get it. Listen, That's a good book to learn to read.
It really is.
So when I first heard about it at PAX, at PAX East is when I first heard about it. And I thought it was, I agree with you. I was, ecstatic is probably not the right word because it was actually, Philly is relatively far from Connecticut comparatively. However, I knew, just from talking to some of the board game folks that I see at Toy Fair and I see at Boston Festival of Independent Games and I also see at, PAX East, they really just wanted a place to be their own that wasn't Gen Con or Essen, things like that. Yeah. Video game conventions have clearly blown up all over the world. And board game conventions are starting to do that, right? Like we're starting to see a lot of smaller conventions slowly get bigger and grow, etc. It's just it took PAX long enough to kind of read the room. How do you feel like it has grown over the last couple of years? I mean, is it bigger? Is it the same? What do you think?
Oh, it's definitely bigger. It is way, way bigger than it ever was before. I think that this year especially was huge. They completely changed the layout of the floor. The entrances are way different. There's much more of an emphasis on security this year. There was last year too. But there were multiple ways to get into the into the convention center. There's only 2 ways to get in now, because they need metal detectors and they need you to follow protocol. So that was one of the bigger challenges for this year. But when we're talking about the evolution of the show, there's a lot more space for first looks, for demos, for tournaments, for free play, and there's some really great panels too. We went to a panel about how to make board games funny. How do we make board games funny? How do we make tabletop RPGs more approachable for children? Things like that.
Good. You went to that one. I asked about that one on Twitter, and they said that it wasn't recorded, but you went to it.
It wasn't. I did. Yeah, it didn't have any hard and fast facts or anything like that. There wasn't any really examples, which was kind of disappointing. And as much as I both love and respect the vast majority, because I knew almost everybody on the panel, either by reputation or personally. I like those people, but I didn't really find value in the way that they presented the material because it was very much so.
Is it possible that you felt that way just because you know that stuff?
There's granted, yeah, that could very much so be the case. I was looking for tips and tricks, I guess, to modify things like D&D 5e or different kinds of game systems that I should be playing in or I could be playing in. Mm-hmm. But it was more along the lines of here are the ways that you can approach it with an eye for child development, and because it was very clinical. There's a lot of folks on the stage that had a clinical background in psychology. So, it was really great to hear their perspectives, but it wasn't quite the tips and tricks that I was looking for.
Sure.
So, but it was still good and it was still worthwhile because it was interesting to think about having to modify tabletop RPGs for kids that are on the spectrum.
Okay.
And the different kinds of approaches that you would need in order to take care of that. And just, making sure that you're being inclusive to neuroatypical children in general. So
that's one thing that I've definitely noticed over the last couple of years. Because in 2017, I think they had 5 panels.
Yes.
There were really almost none. And now it's slowly ramping up.
Yeah, it's still
not quite PAX, not like PAX Prime or PAX East or whatever.
No, it's nothing. It's nothing like PAX West or PAX East. It's, the panels are not cool. They're not even remotely the focus, I suppose.
Yeah. Speaking of which, non sequitur. Did you know that the panel submission deadline for PAX East is the 13th?
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah.
I wanted to go ahead and submit a few. I don't know if I'm gonna have the wherewithal to though.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. So, because it hit me yesterday, because they sent me an email. By the way, did you submit anything yet? Nobby, I did not. But we'll figure it out. Or we'll just make Mike do it. Isn't that why we have a news guy? Anyway.
Yeah.
So
multitude of reasons, but that's
I've definitely noticed. I mean, obviously he is I'm not saying he's not of value.
right.
So
he knows that.
So man, I'm struggling with my own words today. It because of its location, Philadelphia, which is East Coast, it feels to me is the other really, really big convention in the United States is Gen Con.
Yes.
Which is center of the country in Indianapolis. For those of us on the East Coast, I think PAX Unplugged is slowly growing to the point where it is becoming, it's gonna be equal at some point. I wonder if part of that is just because board games are growing so fast and the board game community is growing so fast that there's like a hunger for another big show or more big shows, or if it's just because they're doing a really good job, or maybe both.
I think that it could be. I think it's a combination of things. I mean, PAX Unplugged is quickly becoming that kind of a show for a multitude of reasons. I mean, it's accessible to board game publishers from up and down the East Coast, and that not just in America either. That's Canadians as well that are coming down from Ontario and from Quebec. Mm-hmm. Although you don't see nearly as many from Quebec because, what are we going to do with French Canadian games in Philadelphia? Like that's hard. That's a hard sell.
Sure. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about what those games look like. Are they all like I don't even know. Like, is it just all the game French pieces are hockey pucks?
It's French first.
Oh, it's French first. Oh, that's true. But we can figure it out.
I'm sure. We do imports from Quebec all the time, right? It's just, I think it's more along the lines of like, this isn't necessarily the audience, and I don't know what the tabletop presence is in Quebec. I know that the video game presence is next level, but I'm not sure what tabletop looks like. So there's that. The Philadelphia Convention Center is extremely accessible. It's accessible by train. You can get down there fairly easily by car. You can get there easily from the airport. It's just like in the downtown area in Philadelphia is awesome. It's really great. There's good food everywhere. The people are kind of rough around the edges and kind of gruff like in New York, but they're still really nice. So,
because it's Philly.
It's Philly. It's fine. There's cheesesteaks there.
Yeah, man.
I mean, for me, that's a big draw. I go to Sonny's with the family, and then we go over next door to Happily Ever After, and we get butterbeer.
That sounds great.
Pretty dope. You need to come to PAX Unplugged next year.
Listen, both Linda and I mean, this year was Linda and I were trying to figure it out, but then John had his back surgery.
Yeah.
And man, listen, considering the week I had, could you imagine? I would have had to cancel last minute.
No,
this last couple of weeks have been rough. So, did you see a lot of kids there?
Yes, actually, I did. I saw a ton of kids there. There were kids in strollers. There were kids, there were toddlers there. There were young children. It was very family friendly. And the nice thing about the Philadelphia Convention Center is that you can bring a stroller because it's huge.
Yeah. I think board games lend themselves more to having kids there by nature of the fact that, if you bring your kid to the show floor at PAX East, right? It's crowded, but I'm not so worried about the crowds, whatever.
Okay.
I mean, that's because it's crowded. There's lots of places where it's crowded, and there's ways to deal with that. But if you bring your kid to the show floor at PAX East and you try and roll into the indie mega booth, invariably you're gonna see some game that's Headshot Central. They're gonna have the esports, Call of Duty guys playing, and you are more likely to see something that is not your jam or you don't want to be your kid's jam just by nature of the fact that it's on giant screens. Whereas board games, there are definitely some board games that are not topically appropriate for kids, right? They're
true.
But they're on a board and, maybe there's some art, but And maybe some of those art is on standees, right? But, like, it's not on a giant 180-inch television hanging from the ceiling. And now, admittedly, you and I go, and we're like, yeah. Let's check out Mortal Kombat hanging from the ceiling. Because, like, we're grown-ups.
Maybe not me. I don't, like...
Okay.
Hyper-violence makes my stomach turn these days.
Okay.
I'm a total weirdo.
Okay, but let's take Mortal Kombat out. How about a game that we absolutely know that in a couple of years is going to be hanging from the ceiling at PAX East? Diablo 4.
Oh,
So,
beauty.
like, we know for a fact that there's going to be, like, a demon on the ceiling.
It's true. I'm really
And-
looking forward to Demons on the Ceiling.
Right? And that's Blizzard does that, like, as a matter of course. They're just like, yeah, cool. And so, whereas at PAX Unplugged, you know, there are definitely demons there, right? But it's way easier to go, and you'll walk by them, and you'll be at the Game Right booth, right?
Yeah.
And you'll walk by Nora and her crew, like, doing stuff. Or you'll walk by ILO, and it's like, you know, I don't want to say it's friendlier, because I think PAX is, by and large, very friendly. But what I mean is, the environment is softer, in that even the sharper edges are harder to bump into, just because, you know, they're going to be walking around, they're just going to see people playing board games on tables. And yeah, maybe there's going to be some cool demon figs, but whatever, they're just figs. And so that's the impression that I got there. And I feel the same way when I go to places like, you know, the Boston Festival of Independent Games, which, speaking of places that people need to go, you need to come with me next year, where you go to the video game section, and it's like, whoa, man, that was a little bit much.
I walked in there.
And Evan has feelings, because he goes to BFIG with me every year. But the board game area, like, again, there's pretty heavy stuff on some of those games, but not a big deal, because it's kind of, they're on tables, they're, you know, whereas you go into the video game section and you see some things. So, and so I think that's a really interesting thing to keep in mind. And parents, I would bring my kids, all three of them, to PAX Unplugged without a problem. Whereas I would think twice about my younger kids at PAX East. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty fair.
So yeah, that's PAX Unplugged. That's some of our thoughts on PAX Unplugged. Amanda, would you believe it if I told you that this was episode 204 of the Engaged Family Gaming Podcast? We did it. We managed.
Got like 204. Go us.
Look at us. We did it. The good news is I'm in charge, so no one can cancel us. So folks, yeah, it is true. No one can cancel me, but me. So, everybody, I appreciate you guys listening. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as Amanda and I enjoyed recording it. A little bit of a programming note. This will be our final episode for 2019. Normally, I close up shop for the last 2 weeks of the year. We're actually going to bump that up to 3 this year for a couple of reasons. One, Christmas is coming in hot, and Amanda and I, being parents,
we have so many children.
There's just so many children that we're all responsible for. And so we're going to kind of chill for a little bit. I would encourage you, however, if you, for some reason, just can't not hear my voice, I get it. I don't really, but I'll just say I get it. I would encourage you, because I will be continuing my EFG Daily Commute podcast, which you can read, listen to at engagefamilygaming.com/commute. I'll be continuing that throughout the winter and have no plans of stopping. But this will be our last Engaged Family Gaming podcast until the beginning of the year, where we will start talking about our games of 2019 and our most anticipated games of 2020. And then I know I said I was going to get a bunch of guests on for episode 2 after episode 200. Believe it or not, getting guests on during the holiday season is really darn hard.
It's extremely difficult.
And also, Amanda and I have, it's tough for us to adjust both of our schedules to accommodate guests. But we're working on it.
Not as much anymore.
Well, I mean, I guess that's true. Also, I haven't asked you because it's complicated, guys. Getting guests on podcasts is probably the hardest thing that podcasters ever do. I underestimated it. Forgive me. With that said, folks, y'all know that I try my best. So we will see you all in the early parts of 2020. From Amanda and I, we wish you the happiest of holidays. Play some games, take some of our recommendations, or don't. And we'll be back to celebrate 2019 and then look forward into 2020.
So excited. Happy holidays, everyone.
And until next time, don't forget to get your family game on. We'll see y'all soon. Bye now.
Bye.
Music for the Engaged Family Gaming Podcast is Android Sock Hop by Kevin MacLeod and audio production by Six Pack Nerds Productions.